Let me turn on my hat. I read 60 books this year, and I'm gonna tell you about each and every single one of them as a wrap up. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you couldn't tell, my hat is actually glowing, like it's on. I hope I don't get electrocuted, so that's a thing. I just freaked myself out. Now I have to check if there's something in my teeth because I never uploaded a gift guide video, which I filmed fully and like was editing when I found like a piece of spinach stuck to my teeth. I tried to edit like halfway through and I was like, no one's gonna notice, no one's gonna say anything. It was so obvious and like gross. If you couldn't tell, I am doing my 2022 wrap up. So 2022, I read 60 books total, which was a wild amount for me because I had set out my goal originally was 12, one book a month, and I thought that was doable, that's not intimidating to me, and I feel like that's fine. I read a lot more than that. I discovered like what I missed out on. I discovered new. I really discovered new. And then I also discovered what I didn't like. And I feel like that's part of the process, is eliminating. Anyways, let's just get into it. So the first book I ever read in 2022 was The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie. And I just want to preface this by saying I no longer support this author. I just started reading at the end of 2021. So I just joined Book Talk. I just jumped in. I'm like still in my personal account. Reading Reputation hasn't even been born. So I'm like just scrolling and I see a lot of people talking about this as like a good first mafia romance. And so I read it, and then a few weeks or months later, this author had tweets that were really problematic and her values don't align with mine. And so I no longer want to support someone like that because it's hard to separate the artist from their work. Let's just get into the book. But personally, when I read this, I didn't quite enjoy it. It just wasn't my favorite. I felt like at this point in time, I was still into like fluffy contemporary romances. It was just like not my typical genre. I feel like now I would read mafia romance and stuff and like darker romances, but like at this time, it just wasn't for me. Next author I no longer really read from either, and it's Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book was recommended to me by my friend in college because I was in college at this time. And I read it. I thought it was interesting. Like, she was right. There was never like really a plot line or a husband storyline that was boring. I feel like Evelyn Hugo constantly keeps you engaged, and the storyline with the journalist was a really interesting like jump from the past to the future, or like current day, not future. So that timeline dynamic was very interesting. And I do really like this book. I love a lot of parts about it. I don't think there was like really a flaw. But the reason I don't read from Taylor Jenkins Reid anymore is because after the release of Carrie Soto, there's been a lot of conversations on Book Talk, or like the book community in general, about her being a white author and writing about Latinx communities and characters and just not reflecting their experiences accurately. And authentic representation is super important to me, like in every aspect of my life. Moving on, January was just like not my best month. Next, I read Beautiful Bombshell by Christina Lauren. I could not tell you what this book is about. I just know it continues Bennett and Chloe's story as like a short little novella. I think this is when they get married. No, this is not. Basically chasing each other through the night, trying to hook up. Yeah, it was a novella for those who love Chloe and Bennett, and I don't love them like that enough. Okay, so next we have From Luca with Love by Mariana Zapata. This one was really popular when I read it. I remember like everyone wanted it. This is a sports romance. It's about two figure skaters and it's enemies to lover. It is a slow burn. And I know sometimes with slow burn, it's kind of like, oh my God, like eye roll. But I remember with this book, it was like okay because they were both like, their banter was really funny. That's just all I remember. Next, I read Twisted Hate by Anna Han. And Twisted Hate is actually the third book in the Twisted series. And I do have a video where I review the whole entire Twisted series. I haven't edited or uploaded it yet, but it is coming probably in 2023. But Twisted Hate was my first 5-star read of the year. It was super amazing. It was just like so funny, so spicy. But like every single page was just so good. There was just never a part that bore me. And that's like just what you want in a book. Josh Chen and Jules Ambrose like continues to be my favorite like duo dynamic of all times. It's just like really dramatic, but like totally justified. It wasn't where it's like I wrote like, oh my gosh, communicate. It's just so good. I personally don't have a flaw with it, but I know some people do, because Twisted Hates does have some haters, mighty haters, but I am not one of them. So after I read Twisted Hate, I was like, okay, I want every other single book in the series. And I read Twisted Love. It wasn't my favorite, so I don't have it, but I didn't like it. I rated it 3 stars. It was just like really bland. But I will say, despite how much I didn't enjoy the book, there's something about Alex that I just love. I just love Alex. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the way he like treats Ava, but like what he did to Ava was also like really twisted. And I read Twisted Games and I thought it was like good. I rated it 4 stars. It was like evenly good. But I do adore these characters. I will say I got really confused at the end, and I thought Rice, like I don't know how to say his name, but I thought him and Bridget were cousins, but someone explained it on TikTok to me that they're not cousins, and so it made sense in my mind now. And when Twisted Lies came out, I actually did read it, and I rated this 3.5 stars, but I think I might give it 3 stars or around there, somewhere around that. I just feel like the billionaire trope is overdone and it's not done correctly. And especially like the no emotion grumpy billionaire vibe. I just didn't really enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed Twisted Hate and Twisted Games. I feel like there was just something lacking. I don't know if it's like all the expectation I had for Christian Harper or all like the buzz that was surrounding Christian Harper, but he just wasn't what I was expecting in book form. And so he didn't live up to my brain, but there were just some parts of the book I enjoyed, but majority of it I did not. Next, we have It Happened One Summer. I enjoyed this. I love Schitt's Creek, and if you didn't know, that's like a show. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. This book is inspired by that town, and I think this is like Alexis, and then this is Muck, right? Is that right? This is not the veterinarian because he doesn't have a beard. I really enjoyed this book like through and through. I thought it was really funny. And it's just like really cute and fluffy, and it was just so fun. So that's that. I enjoyed it. It was fun. So of course I did also have to read the second book in the series, or the duology. And this is Hook, Line, and Sinker, and this is about Hannah and Fox is Brandon's friend, and then Hannah is Piper's little sister. And so this is like a friends to lover kind of situation, but I did enjoy this. I felt like Hannah is definitely a lot more mature than Piper, and I like that aspect. I think the like Fox's nap on mommy's couch was like really weird. This was good. This was like 5 stars. And then the other one was like 4 or 4.5, just because I didn't like how immature or baby-like Tessa made Piper to be in the end. Can you see the book stack now? Is it like growing? Oh, yeah, you can see it now. Okay. What's next? Next, we have To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was entertaining. It was just one of those books that were like entertaining. It wasn't like out of this world outstanding, but it wasn't like terrible. So I gave it a 4 stars. It's good. I don't remember too much of it. I just know there was like, it was entertaining. And I think it was like pretty spicy. I don't remember. I don't think it was pretty spicy, but I think there was like 2 or 3 scenes that were detailed. Yeah. Next, we have The Fine Print, which is the first book in the Dreamland Billionaire. Is it the Billionaire Dreamland series? I was very disappointed in this book. I just had a lot of hype and buzz because everyone was like, Rowan is like the king of Groveling. He is the man. Him and Zara are like everything. I just like didn't see it. I thought they were cute, right? But it just wasn't like outstanding, like I just didn't get it. After this book, I was questioning if I should read the second book when it came out. And so when it did come out, I ended up reading it, and I enjoyed this a lot more. So this one is Age Gap, Marriage of Convenience. She's his assistant. I really like this one a lot better. This is like also Grumpy Sunshine. I just like this better. I feel like the characters are more lovable on both ends. Like both Declan and Iris are lovable. Next, I read Dating Dr. Dill, which is so amazing. I love this book. It was just so cute, so fluffy, so lighthearted, and just like overall really entertaining. And I don't think there was like a flaw in this book. I know some people get like kind of picky or nitpicky, or icky. I think icky is the right word, where he calls his thing Charlie, and I can see that. That's really icky, but to me it didn't bother me when I was reading it, and I kind of just like looked past it. I was like seeing reviews, people were calling it out. Oh, this like bothered people more than it like bothered me, but I didn't think too much about it. I rated it 5 stars maybe. I would rate it 5 stars now. It's just overall like really entertaining and good and so fluffy, but like really spicy on top of the fluffy, so. I also read Daisy Jones and the Six. This was before Carrie Soto was released, so I just want to say that. But I did enjoy this book. I loved it because it was just so different. This is written in like pure dialogue or interview style. Billy's addictive personality was like really relatable and just like really interesting to see him as a character develop and grow. But I will say it's like entertaining all the way through. I feel like the middle part where they were making their second album was like a little boring because it was just kind of like drama like here and there, and then the ending, when it starts to like really pick up, it gets really good. Next, I read Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. I didn't really like this. I don't like how the main character was kind of like a hot mess, but like kind of blamed everyone else for it, and she was just so irresponsible for like, I don't even know how old she was, like 23, 25. She was living with her brother and her brother's best friend, as like they were doing her a service because her apartment complex burned down, that she burned down, I believe. Like, I think she did it. She drank like the roommate's like super expensive bottle of wine. She just kind of lived in her own la la land, and I didn't like that. This was just a no for me. I rated it 3 stars because I did finish it, but I wish I DNF'd and then gave it 2. And then next I met A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn, which this one was very entertaining. It is a, I think, marriage of convenience or dating of convenience. I can't remember. I don't even know their names. Knox? Huxley. Just like entertaining to read, to say the least. There was something that happened in the end that I just kind of was like, what the heck? I didn't like that part in the book. Like, there was a scene that happened that I didn't personally agree and liked. So I think I knocked it to like 3 stars, but I think the book in overall is just like entertaining. Next, we're finally getting to a 5 stars. And so this is when I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And this was so good, so like intriguing, kept me on my toes. I thought I had figured it out from the very beginning. I did not. A high school senior who decided as her capstone project she's going to rediscover a closed murder case. It opens this like can of worms as she's like interviewing certain people in the town, and like things are not aligning as the old article. I'm like, I have chills from talking about it because it's just so good. And then in the second one, she gets a lot of kind of attention from that, and so she decides to have a podcast and kind of just explore true crime stories. Her friend's older brother is also missing, and so she decides that she is going to help in this case as well. Really good book, YA like murder mystery thriller, just like so fast-paced, intriguing, keeps you on your toes, plot twist, just you just never know what's going to happen. Then next I read Kiss the Sky by Krista and Becky Ritchie. This is part of the Calloway Sisters series. It was very tropey. You could tell that it was written in 2013, 15 kind of style, where how much they like hyper focused on Rose being like a virgin and like Connor being this alpha male. But I think this book, a little ASMR, I think this book was just, I think like any other book that I've just been saying, it just fell into the, it's good, it made me happy, it entertained me, and that's like more than I could ask for in a book. Or like, that's not more, but that's like all I could ask for in a book. It was entertaining. And then next we have Hot House Flower, and this is about Daisy and Wright. Like, age gap in books is like fine if it's appropriate, but like he knew her when she was 15, and that just like doesn't sit right with me. Now we're gonna talk about a highly anticipated read for everyone, which is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I read this when it came out, and I remember I read this in Nashville because I was flying to Nashville. This was better than I thought. I didn't have high expectations because I kind of had this thing in my heart where I was like, I'm not an Emily Henry girly. Like, I tried so hard to be, but I don't think I am, because I DNF people we meet on vacation. Like, it just wasn't for me. I love Charlie and Nora. I think they're just like really cute. They match each other really well. And then I liked the dynamic with the sibling. I feel like that storyline was also like really intriguing, especially if you do have siblings in your life. Anyways, I rated this 4 stars. After Nashville, I had graduation and then I went on a beach vacation. And so I thought the perfect thing to bring is The Summer I Turned Pretty, which everyone was talking about this because the show was coming out so soon. And so I wanted to read the first book before the show came out. Enjoyed it, just not enough. It was a 3 stars. I will say it is YA. It is the younger audience, so I'm not going to give it like a harsh rating. I'm not gonna go too hard. It's not like meant for me. It was good, it was cute. I think the show is better. Following along with YA romances, I read The Summer of Broken Rules. This I adore. I love Taylor Swift, and so there's so many Taylor Swift references in this, and it's just so good. I love this book. It's insta-lovey because they only have a week together. Not they only have a week, but they are spending a week in this like vineyard, and so things pick up really quickly. It works because each day is so jam-packed with action, where it feels like, you know, that week is actually like, it felt like a month. And so it worked. I adore this book. I love it. It's just like a good YA romance. Like, it's fantastic. Then we have a book that I was so underwhelmed with, and it's Funny You Should Ask by Elisa Susanman. I heard this is about a real story of like a Chris Evans interview, allegedly. I don't know though. I felt really underwhelmed by this book because people loved it. I did not. I think another way to say that is like, it just didn't live up to its buzz and its hype. It just didn't feel right to me because like the whole weekend that she interviewed him, he was like drunk. To say within those 3 days, like they fell in love, and then like they were still in love after 10 years, and when they rekindled, they were still in love. Like, that didn't make sense to me. So anticlimactic. 2 stars. But I did finish it for some reason. And then I have What If You and Me by Ronnie Lauren, and I got this at a library book sale for 50 cents, so it was definitely a steal. And I thought this was decent. It started off really like good, but I felt like there were just some like emotion and things that were like lacking for me that didn't quite reach a 4-star read. So this was like a 3.25 for me. So next I read a graphic novel called The Girl from the Sea by Molly Ostertag, and I have this book. It's upstairs. I'm not going to grab it because I am so tired, but it was super cute, super like sweet. It's fantasy-ish. Yeah, it's fantasy. So it's about this girl. I forgot what it's called, but she was like half seal and half girl, and she lives in the sea, but like every 10 years she gets to come up to be a human, and she comes across this girl who doesn't really have a sense of identity yet, or she's figuring it out. And they're like young kids, and relationships like that help you bring you to the person you are today. So I really like that. Next, we have one of my top reads of this year. I discovered Kennedy Ryan and I fell in love. That's all I have to say. But I decided to pick up the Hoop series, so I picked up Long Shot and Hook Shot. I just want to preface, if you're going to read these books, check the trigger warnings. The first book is so heavy and intense, and there's just a lot of like heavy and graphic, heavy things discussed, but also very graphic scenes written as well. And then there are also some intense scenes in Hookshot as well. Longshot ended up being a top read of this year. It is just so amazing. It is like heartbreaking. It actually kept me up for I think like a week because I just felt so much for Iris and like all that she went through to get to where she was. Hookshot is about Iris's cousin. So this is Lotus, but I also really adore this. I just love like this universe. 5-star series, even though I haven't read the second book yet, but I love both of those books. Moving past that, I also read the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and I only have the third book with me, but I actually read book 1, 2, and 3 in that order. So this is like, I think one of the few series that I'm actually reading in order. I read the first book and I thought it was really good. I think it's a good starter for this series. Like, it laid an excellent foundation. Georgie and Vettel, Georgie and V, amazing. I love them together. I just think they're like very leaders. The second book, I gave it like a 3.5. I just didn't really enjoy it. I felt like I would have enjoyed this book maybe a little further down in the series, because one of the alien kidnaps Liz and takes her away kind of from like what she already knew. And I feel like this whole planet is already so new to her. I feel like that was like introduced too soon, because now she's like excluded from like her humans that like she barely even knows. And then the third book, I liked it at first, and then the ending, like the second half of the book was just like boring to me, because it's a slow burn. So there's not like as much smut in the first and second book. So it's already like kind of like a slower place for this series. I didn't like the world building part of it, like the return of the green aliens and then like the expanding of the caves. I felt like that was fine, like the expansion part, but kind of like explaining in detail like a written map of like the South Cave and like things like that just wasn't my favorite. And then next I read Love in the Time of Serial Killers. I pre-ordered this book because I was expecting kind of like a true crime romance situation, but I felt like I didn't really get that. It was more of just like a bland romance, and the character happened to like true crime. I feel like that's a lot of the books that are happening. It just didn't live up to like my expectations, so maybe I have high expectations. And then I also read Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. This was my first book by Katie Roberts, and I am not like a Greek mythology person. Like, I don't know anything about it. This was super easy to understand. It's a retelling of Persephone and Hades. It was good. I felt like there was a lot of spice. I wouldn't say good spice, but it was there. The ending just turns out super slow. It's like the last fourth of a book that really breaks or makes a book, and most author tends to outstretch their length. And then I read the Spy X Family series manga, book 1, 2, 3, and 4. Book 1 and 2, I would give it 5 stars. Like, book 1 was amazing. Great foundation, laid all the characters. Lloyd and Anya, my favorite duo. Dynamic is so amazing. They're just so funny. And Anya is like actually the cutest person in the universe. Then the third book is supposed to be Yor's book, but I feel like the author took her story away and then just started telling her brother's story. And I hate her brother. Her brother is like obsessive with his sister in like the most disturbing way, where like he wants to marry his sister. That was so weird. And so I gave the third book 3 stars, but I probably would give it 2 because I just thought the brother was so weird. The fourth book is about the dog, which I thought was cute. It definitely felt like a filler book. I don't think anything in that book happened that move Lloyd's mission progress. Next, I read My Killer Vacation, and this one was okay. Definitely a book that had like lower plot and more spice. I gave it 2 stars. Moving on into the Hot and Hammer series, which is Fix Her Up and Love Her, Lose Her. I didn't really like this as well. And I don't know why I read 2 books in the series if I didn't like it. So the first one was like 3 stars. It was just so annoying. A very like childish main character with a even like more childish male main character. And the second book was also like super highly like alpha male as well, and I didn't like that. And it was like to the point where like he didn't let her have friends. And I was like, that's not cute. Like, I didn't like that at all. And then I read Heartstopper, which is also a show on Netflix. And it's so cute. It's young adult graphic novel, but it has LGBTQIA representation, and it's just so amazing. There's the 2 main characters, one is gay, one is bisexual. Nick, who is bisexual, goes on this discovery of finding who his identity or how he wants to identify himself as. So I stopped at book 2. I just haven't read book 3 and book 4 yet. I unhauled it at the library, but I just haven't got my hands on it. And I just think it's really great that young readers can see this kind of representation in their books and in graphic novels. And it's just a really good book. It's just so cute as well. But I feel like the way they navigate like heavier conversations and hard topics is just very with care and sensitivity and love for each other. It's a 5-star series for me so far. Sorry if it was dark. Then next I read Shatter Me, which is the all-time Book Talk famous Shatter Me series with Aaron Warner and Kenji and Juliet. I rated this 4 stars. I read this in the beginning of the year. I have reviews of it on my Instagram, but I love the author. I just don't want to talk about this book because it is a HarperCollins book. And if you didn't know, HarperCollins employees are on strike demanding fair livable wages. And so they're still on strike. And in support of that, they have asked that readers hold reviews from HarperCollins until HarperCollins meets the demands of the strikers. And then I read You Had Me at Ola, which is the same situation as Shatter Me. This is a part of Avion Books, and that is an imprint of HarperCollins. So same situation, but I do have reviews of it on my Instagram if you scroll like deep back. The Silent Patient. And The Silent Patient, I DNF. It was just boring. I didn't like it. I read 150 pages, but just so boring, underwhelming. I couldn't understand Theo's point of view, which is the main character. I saved myself some time by DNFing it. I also have The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert. This one I read and I thought was super cute, super fun, super flirty. This one I enjoyed. I think I gave it like 3.75 or 4 stars, but it's like dating of convenience, forced proximity with a prince, and so just really good. Okay, and then I read 7 Days in June, which is kind of like a heartbreaking book because it's like alternative timeline of them from childhood into the future, or not future, present time. But it was definitely some hard topics in there like drug abuse and domestic violence. I really enjoyed this book. It was really good. And I think I rated it 4 stars. And then I read Icebreaker, which I literally am obsessed with this book. It's so good. It got me into my like sports romance tunnel vision. It's a college setting, so Nate is a hockey player and then Stassi is a figure skater. And I just think it's like a really fun and cute romance. So can't go wrong. Okay, continuing on into the sports romance era, I picked up Fumble, which is a football romance trope. Book, not trope, but this was super cute. It's single parent trope, and I just really adored it. I thought it was like super good, like not tried and true, but like super good through and through. I'm stumbling a lot now because I'm so tired. I also read The Sin Bin, which is a hockey romance. It was good at first, but it's like that last ending that like really broke it. So it just felt like long and dragged out, and I also didn't like the ending. I think this was like 3.5 or 3.25. Then after sports romance, I entered my monster romance era, which is strange, but I read Titan by Gillian Grave, and this is like one of the most smuttiest book I have ever read, but it was so good. A really interesting dynamic. It was just so entertaining and so good. Like, what was there not to like? I felt like there was more smut than there was plot, but still good. Still a top 2022. And I thought that was so good that I read the novella also by that author called Blood Moon, and it had a vampire and a witch, but I didn't really like it. I thought there was like a lack of chemistry. It was just really bland. There was something missing in it, and so I gave it 2 stars. And then I recently just finished A Pho Love Story by Lon Lay, and this is a YA fiction, YA romance, which I adore. I think the representation in this is so good. I literally think this book is written for the youngest sibling in an immigrant family, so it was me. The Vietnamese representation, the immigrant child, being in an immigrant family, and just like everything about it just made me feel so seen. I also read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, which I heard about this on TikTok. It's a heavy, thick book. It definitely felt like telenovela vibes, like very just over dramatic. Would never ever happen in real life. I feel like that is part of why it was so entertaining. And then I also read Normal People, which I read 2 stars. I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. And then I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, and this one was literally the same book as The Love Hypothesis with different characters. And so I was just so bored. I ended up giving this 3 stars. Next, I have The Cruel Prince, which I rated 3 stars. This was my first fantasy, so it was like really confusing in that sense. But I heard the second book is really good. Lastly, we're going to end with the also famous Coho. And everyone was talking about Verity. So that's when I read it, and I thought it was good. It was like scary. It kept me on my toes, and I rated it 5 stars. It was like genuinely like a thriller. When Reminders of Him was released, I also pick that up as well. And I think I rated it 5 stars then, but I think I would give it 4 stars now because I was definitely like more influenced to give it 5 stars because everyone was giving it 5 stars. So that was that. We made it through 60 books in 2022 and I am exhausted. This did take like 4 hours to film, but I did take breaks in between, but also my voice is like dying. That was kind of dramatic. Thank you y'all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you want to see next and Happy New Year. I'll catch you on the flip side, literally probably next year.